A man was going about his day in the heart of the city. He had his morning coffee in hand and was on his way to work. The air was cool, and the clouds were starting to darken. For days he had felt a strange unease, as if someone was watching him, but each time he dismissed it as paranoia. The streets were as busy as ever, but something felt off. Everyone's face seemed blank, soulless. As his steps quickened, a low hum filled his ears. When he glanced over his shoulder, there was no one there, but that didn't stop the growing feeling that he wasn't alone. Every shadow, every corner seemed to hide a threat. That evening, after work, he left his office and began his usual walk home. Under the glow of the city lights, he moved at a steady pace, but once again, that unsettling feeling returned. His footsteps quickened, desperate to reach the safety of home. But the faster he walked, the more he felt the shadows behind him keeping pace. He didn't dare look back. He didn't want to know. Turning a corner, he froze. Standing in front of him, barely visible in the dark, was a figure. It didn't move. Who was it? Why was it there? It felt like it was watching him, like it had been watching him for a long time. Fear surged through him, and he bolted down a side alley, running as fast as his legs could carry him. His heart pounded in his chest, his breath erratic. When he finally looked back, the figure was gone, but deep down he knew it wasn't over. He decided to escape the city, to get as far away as possible. His steps led him to darker, emptier streets. The city lights began to fade. As he left the city behind, he found himself standing at the edge of a vast, dark forest. He didn't want to enter, but something behind him was closing in. His breath was shallow, his hands shaking. He had a choice: turn back and face the figure, or run into the depths of the forest. With a deep breath, he stepped into the trees. As soon as he entered, the sounds of the city vanished. Only the rustling of leaves and the distant call of an owl could be heard. The deeper he went into the forest, the more it felt like the trees themselves were watching him. He was lost, directionless, but something kept pulling him forward. After a while, even the light of the moon disappeared. Darkness swallowed everything. Then he noticed something in front of him, a shape standing still among the trees. His heart almost stopped. It was there, the dark figure from the city, now unmistakably clear, standing just ahead. It didn't move, but he could feel it staring right through him, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Then, without making a sound, the figure started moving toward him. Everything went black. The shadows of the trees deepened, a cold wind swept through, and the world seemed to stop. He heard a whisper, low and impossible to pinpoint. Run. He ran. His legs felt like they would give out, but he ran deeper into the forest. The sound of footsteps echoed behind him, always close to close. He could feel the figure's breath on the back of his neck. With every step, he ran and ran, but there was no escape. Finally, he stopped. He had no strength left. The dark figure slowly approached, its face still hidden in the gloom. Just as it seemed like its face would finally be revealed, everything went silent. The forest, the world, his breath, nothing remained. Who or what the figure was, why it had been following him, would never be known. As he was pulled into the endless darkness, one thing was clear: it had always been watching, and now it had found him.